All right. Well, a very happy new year to you as we get ready to turn the page on 2024. We've got, well, plenty of college basketball to go over here today. Some great games to kick off 2025 as we welcome in Brian Leonard and Rob Vino on, well, we got a whole lot of conference play now. Some big games getting ready to tip off here on this December the 31st. We're going to start with West Virginia taking on Kansas. Now, Brian, a lot of people thought West Virginia was going to be changing of the guard. It was going to be a little rough go of it, but so far, so good. They already have a couple of upset wins here, taking on Kansas, which has not been a great place for covering as of late. So what do you think we're going to get in this game here tonight?
Yeah, I've got a West Virginia team who I always grade out is when you're looking at power ratings from home and away. I think this is one of the ones that had one of the strongest home courts in college basketball. Then on the road, you got to go a little bit against them. And this year, they've only played one true road game, and that was at Pittsburgh. And they were blown out in that game, 86-62. So this will be their only second true road game. They are on a nice little run here, beating some pretty good teams. Arizona, Georgetown looks like they're a little bit better this year. They beat Gonzaga, although every time I see Gonzaga play now, I'm thinking maybe this isn't the normal Gonzaga team. But, yeah, it's a situation for West Virginia where you do have to look at who they have available in this one. Tucker DeVries, probably their second best overall player. He's out in this game. You also have questionable Hansberry, who is probably the third best player. He is questionable. So they're going to be a little bit short here going into Kansas, a place that, as you mentioned, a very tough place to win. I'm looking at this game, and I think the line's a little bit short. I prefer the Kansas side here. It did move a little bit, move from 12.5 to 13.5, but even at 13.5, I think that's a bit of a bargain on the host as I look to fade this West Virginia team on the road for only the second time, and could be missing some really important players in this game.
Yeah, it's been, shall we say, an interesting road so far for West Virginia and for Kansas. Rob Vino, are you leaning one way or the other in this one?
Well, I would probably side with what Brian says, but I'll take it over to total where, the DeVries injury is, for anybody who watched Drake basketball last year, it's just huge. Best three-point shooter on the floor for that side, 47%, a lot of veteran leadership, follows his dad here to West Virginia. Under would seem to be a good look in this one. It hasn't been chopped down too much. I think 142 down to 141.5 right before we came on air here. Hunter Dickinson, it's almost like Zach Edey with Purdue last year, right? And when you look at what's going to go on the interior in this game, KU, and they've played a really good schedule, number 25 in defensive rebound percentage. So West Virginia not being a good offensive rebounding team because they're smallish, they rank 225 in offensive rebounding. You could see, without DeVries on the floor, a lot of one and dones on the West Virginia offensive end, which is good for under. KU likes to push a little bit. They're not necessarily extreme tempo. When you just follow Darren DeVries' career, basically what he likes to do is anchor down in half-court defense, play tremendous half-court offense, surround himself with perimeter shooters. That's what they had success with at Drake. But everything that his style requires, Kansas does better at this point in time. They're basically even as far as three-point shooting percentage is concerned. I'd give the lean to KU a little bit with three-point shooting with DeVries out. The one thing, and Brian hit on it, the one thing that you have to have as a concern is the fact that West Virginia, even though they haven't been on the road other than the Pittsburgh game, they did play, those three straight overtime games, and they were all against good opponents. And they picked up 2 wins in those games. But I don't know that applies here in conference play. I actually think Kansas is going to push the tempo at home a little bit, but I think their defense probably swallows West Virginia in this one. So I agree with Brian on the side, and I would add to it by saying I think under 141.5 is probably a good look for West Virginia to make their way to 60 points, 62 points. I think is going to be difficult in this game.
All right, like it. A little look at the under as well in this one. West Virginia taking on Kansas. Let's move on down the line. Another interesting one with Baylor and Utah coming up here today. Utah, crazy enough, Brian. I mean, it looks like we're the first true road game of the season here, heading to Waco, which is never an easy place to play. Baylor has all the athlete and shooters that you want. Utah is like a bunch of gargantuans. They're not going to run anybody off the court, but they're going to beat the living snot out of you. It's a big number. It's 11. What are you thinking about this one here?
Yeah, this Utah team you mentioned, it is their first true road game, but they've also only played 2 neutral games. They lost to Mississippi State and they lost to Iowa. And when you take a look at what I'm seeing for strength of schedule so far this season, Utah ranks 246th, but Baylor ranks 88th. Baylor's played the much tougher schedule than Utah has. Utah's a pretty good defensive team, ranked 70th, Baylor 84th, but offensively, we've got Baylor number 5, we've got Utah number 61, and then, keep in mind that's against, like I said, the 246 schedule. So we've got a Utah team that has not been on the road, and they have played weak opposition. Not something that I'm looking forward to here. Baylor comes in 8-3. That opening game against Gonzaga, the 101-63 loss, is now even more mind-blowing than it was at that time. But they lost to Tennessee, excellent team. Connecticut, being there every year. I mean, so both teams, when they've stepped up in class, they have struggled a little bit. That said, I prefer this Baylor team. They played a lot tougher schedule thus far. And if you take a look at who they've played, they've gone twice on the road already. They've got 3 neutral site games. So they're out there and about. They're not some of these teams like the Utah that has played all these home games and letting everybody come to their altitude and give them that advantage. From what I could tell right here on the current line, I'm still going with the favorite here. I'll take Baylor.
You're going to look at Baylor in this one. I think the cat agrees there, Rob Vino. How about you in this one? Is it Baylor laying the number here?
Yeah, if I could get my dog to agree, we'd have a complete set here. Yeah, and Brian's points were the first 2 I had in my notes. Utah's strength of schedule has been absolutely miserable. Baylor has been tough. Baylor's actually played 5 teams that are likely going to be in the tournament come March Madness. So they played Gonzaga, Arkansas, Tennessee, St. John's, and UConn. Certainly much tougher. And when you add to it the fact that Utah plays their whole schedule in overtime, in altitude, it's problematic. And the good thing about Utah, Joe, is, and I think Craig Smith does this because of their home floor, right? But they're number 46 in tempo. They get up and down the floor, and the Madsen kids are good. There's no question about it. They're scorers. Baylor has 3-point shooting and coming out of their ears in this game. And Utah doesn't defend the 3 whatsoever. And Baylor doesn't defend the 3 whatsoever. To me, this total has seen a push up into I think it was 153.5, started 152. And I could see this thing getting up and down the floor and being a lot of scoring. Utah, for what it's worth, like I said, they're a tempo team. And I don't think they could just turn that off and try and play half court. And Baylor absolutely welcomes a tempo team with their crew of athletes. So, Baylor, in all likelihood, in this game, finds their way to 83 plus. And I think even in a losing effort, Utah with the Madsen kids probably can find their way over 70. So I think over is the best play on the board here. I would look at Baylor. If I was going to play them, I would want to know that the other team can't handle the ball. Baylor's good at forcing turnovers, but Utah's a pretty veteran team handling the basketball. And again, I'll just go back to Brian's point. Some of these statistics that look real good that are put up by Utah, we don't know if they're fact or fiction yet because they're put up against a lousy schedule. So let's see them against a good team here on the road, see what they do. My feeling is they'll get to 70 plus, and Baylor probably finds their way to 83 plus. So I'm going to go with over.
Liking the over in that one as well, guys. Don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already here as we get ready to turn the page on 2024. Welcome in 2025 with a bang. You can also take advantage of that 25% off right now, good through 11:59 p.m. tonight here on New Year's Eve. Use the code HOLIDAY25. Take 25% off your entire cart here today. You can partner with Bryan Leonard. You can partner with Rob Vino or any one of your favorite handicappers at WagerTalk.com. Head over there. Use that code HOLIDAY25. All right, guys, before we get to some best bets here, let's take a look at this Virginia Tech versus Duke game here. Doesn't feel like this is going to be a game, but you never know. The great equalizer, Bryan Leonard. What are you thinking with the spread when it comes to Va Tech taking on Duke here? Uh-oh, this is where we read the lips, I think, Robino. This is the point of the thing. Oh, no. Wait a minute. And there he
Okay, as I said, yeah, I had to turn it off for the cat. Duke can win this by any amount they want to. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a competitive game. Lines in the 25 range. They could win by 40 and wouldn't surprise me at all. Virginia Tech is 1-5 on the season as an underdog, and their biggest win of the year, Navy by 8. I mean, the teams they have beaten: Delaware State, SC Upstate, Winthrop, NC A&T, and Navy, and now they're going on the road to play Duke. They haven't played in 9 days here. Duke can do whatever they want here. Duke's got SMU, Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, Miami coming on deck. They're running, a 6-game winning streak last time out. They blew out Georgia Tech on the road. The only way Virginia Tech stays in this one is if Duke lets them stay in this one. It's unfortunate. The line doesn't show me much value. It actually points to Virginia Tech by like a point, but I can't put my money on a team who hasn't played a good quality opposition all year long.
What the hell has happened to Va Tech? My goodness. Rob Vino, what are you thinking here, my man, in this one? Blowout City?
Yeah, I think, again, it depends on the interest level of Duke. Even though they beat Georgia Tech, absolutely destroyed Georgia Tech, that win was by 26, which is right around the number that we're looking at here, 25. Granted, that game was on the road. This one's at home. You wonder, I know we're in conference season now, Joe, so we're going to start to do this a little bit with the midweek game and the weekend game. Is there a slight look ahead towards SMU for Duke? I don't know that they fear SMU, but, John Shire could certainly have his team focused on an 11-2 team that they're going to play on the road Saturday more than the focus that they'll put on this team here. Then again, New Year's Eve at home. I just, does Duke want to get in and get out? I'm not so sure at this price tag. I will say this. The disparity between these defenses inside the arc is crazy. Duke is the number 2 team in the country in field goal percentage allowed as far as 2-pointers are concerned. Only giving up 40.2% on twos. You don't get to the rim against this team. You don't get into the paint and make shots against this team. Virginia Tech's number 300 in that same category. Duke will get into the paint. Duke will get to the rim. Duke will do what they want inside the 3-point arc. So from that perspective, it seems like an absolute mismatch. You throw in the scheduling so far. Brian talked about Virginia Tech hasn't beaten anybody. They haven't lost to anybody by this amount, but they haven't beaten anybody either. Duke basically could name the scores, so you have to look at, in my case, you have to look at total. And I just don't know where Virginia Tech's points are going to come from in this game. You said earlier, Joe, what happened to Virginia Tech? My God, Mike Young was one of the hottest coaches going just a little while back, and now all of a sudden they can't do anything right. Until we see them do something right, it's hard to trust them. I'd probably take the slightest of slight leans towards under in this game, thinking that Duke just doesn't allow anything to Virginia Tech in this game.
Kind of crazy. I mean, my goodness, falling off a cliff there, this Va-Tech basketball program. But listen, plenty of college basketball on tap here today. Some other great matchups throughout the day as we round out 2024. Time to talk some best bets here. And Bryan Leonard, let me turn to you here. Talk to me about what you've got right now on your page at WagerTalk.com and give us a best bet on the card here today. What are you looking at?
Well, right now it's $5 Customer Appreciation Day. Everybody puts up at least, the one play for $5. It's a great day for our clients who have been red hot in the NHL, 12-4 overall in the NHL. And I've got a play on early game going in hockey for today. I wanted to have something other than football. I know everybody's all interested in football. We do have those for our regular clients, but I've got that going for us today. Hockey, really strong card in hockey. I thought we've got 2 plays up in college football, and we've got 1 play up in college basketball. And that's what I'm going to give you right here since you took the time to join us. I'm going to take a look at this Arizona State BYU game. Current line from what we're looking at is BYU in the 9.5 range. In fact, it's across the board. 9.5 hasn't moved since the opener. The Sun Devils have played a top 100 schedule, and yet they only have 2 losses. They lost to Gonzaga, and at a neutral site, they lost to Florida. 2 pretty good teams, even though I've disparaged Gonzaga a couple times on this show. They're still a very good team, and I'm sure they'll be there at the end of the year. And while this is just their second true road game, Arizona State had played just 4 home games. They are 5-1 on the season as an underdog, and they've been willing to go out and play neutral site games early in the season. I like this team. I think there's a lot of value on them right now. BYU comes in with the same 9-2 mark, but its strength of schedule ranks 233rd. Once again, Sun Devils in the top 100. And that 233rd, that's with 7 home games already for BYU and only 1 true road contest. You also have a Cougars team with Houston and Texas Tech on deck. That's our 3rd and 16th ranked teams in the country. Could be a little bit of a letdown here for BYU against Arizona State. I like this Arizona State team, and this line of right on the fringe of double digits to me is kind of crazy. BYU's always had a real strong home court, no doubt about it. But if you're asking me right now who I want in this game, it's definitely Arizona State. I think this line's about 3 points too high in that regard.
All right, love it. All right, make sure you hop on board there. $5 Tuesday, Customer Appreciation Day. Best bets, just $5. Rob Vino, how about you? What do you got locked and loaded for the clients? And give us a best bet here today.
Well, let's start with what's locked and loaded, Joe, and that would be college football for today and tomorrow locked in. A 5%er up, the only other 5%er we've had in college football bowl action was the Miami of Florida Iowa State game, which got over the total rather easily. Been a great month. Number 1 at Wager Talk this month, last 30 days. So the month of December has been good. Number 1 in college football. Go ahead and check it out. We're going to add NBA to that slate as well for today, Joe. So there's more college football coming, but right now the 5%ers up there. You can get your $5 play over at WagerTalk.com. For the best bet, I'm going to go back to something that we talked about earlier, and I just think Baylor, Utah has all the makings of. I know the total is 153.5. I think you can get to 160 plus in this game. The tempo is going to be there. Both teams can shoot the 3. Baylor doesn't really defend the 3. They can get a little loose defensively. They played much the better schedule. So I think Utah's in for a little bit of an awakening on the defensive side. And Baylor's been to 90 plus 5 times already this season. Granted, against lesser competition, but they can find their way to points on the scoreboard. And as I said earlier, despite Utah's schedule, I got a lot of faith in those Madsen kids to put up points too. So give me over 153.5 in the Utah-Baylor game is the best bet for the show.
Can't go wrong there, guys. A lot of college basketball coming your way as we flip the script to 2025, but not before we end 2024 on a very profitable note. Again, $5 Tuesday right now. Best bets are $5 over at WagerTalk.com and or SportsMemo.com. You can visit Bryan Leonard right now. You can visit Rob Vino. They told you both guys locked and loaded ready to go here on this $5 Tuesday at Wager Talk. So we appreciate it, as always, tuning in. It's been a hell of a 2024. We're all looking very forward to making it a very profitable 2025. On behalf of Brian Leonard and Rob Vino and all of us at WagerTalk.com, we wish you and yours a very safe and happy new year, but more importantly, let's make it a profitable one as well. Good luck with the plays here today. We'll see you in 2025.